Hi there, this is Stephanie with Premedbff. So I was just working through some binomial theorem problems and thinking to myself how complicated I thought the problems were before I understood the organization of the binomial theorem. So in this video, I just go through step by step how to organize your solution for the binomial theorem so that you have an easier time working up to the harder problems that involve subtraction and also larger exponents. So I hope you enjoy this video and that you get a lot out of it and you're able to apply it towards your test taking and that you just get really good grades and do really well. Enjoy! Alright, so I know you didn't come to waste time, so let's pick an easy equation that's going to lay out sort of what binomial theorem is all about. So we could do x plus 2 to the third to start. It's an easier problem to solve because it's an addition and it's raised to a small power. So when binomial theorem really becomes handy is when this power gets higher and when this sign is negative, because it makes it much easier for you to avoid making errors. So let's get familiar with how you're going to be seeing this displayed in your book so it doesn't look overwhelming when you're looking at it by yourself. So a lot of times we'll refer to the first term as a plus b to the nth power, right? Does that look familiar? Now over here, sometimes you'll see it as summation notation with n on the top, or they like to write equals 0 because when you're going to go across, you're going to see with the factorials we'll write in, they always start at 0, and for every term we add 1 as we go across the board. You'll see. Anyway, so then we write, so this is supposed to indicate, like what we would do in this case would be the n, actually in every case, the n on top and the r on the bottom, okay? And then you're going to see a multiplied to the n minus r times b to the r power. Okay, so we've got that laid out. Now let's just dive right in. So let's look at our first term that we have, and we're dealing with x plus 2 to the third power. So we're going to start with our n, which is going to be 3, right? And on the bottom, we're going to put 0 because we always start at 0, right? Okay, we'll factorial all those later. Now we're going to go and we're going to put a, which in this circumstance is x, to the n, 3 minus 0, right? And we're going to multiply that by 2 to the r, which in this case, what's r? 0, right? And we're going to add that, that's our first term, to our second term, which is going to be 3 factorial 1. We're going to do x to the n minus r, and we're going to multiply that by 2 to the r plus 3 over r, which in this circumstance we add 2 every time, right? And this is our second term. So now we're going to just close that off, multiply it by x to the n minus r times 2 to the r plus, now we've got our third term, 3, which is our n, right, over our last r. Once your n and your r equal the same thing, you know you're on your last term, you're done, this is the last one you have to do. And so we're going to multiply that by x to the 3 minus 3 because 3 is our r, 3 is our n. So 3, which is our n, minus 3, which is our r, times 2, which is b, to the r, right? Which is going to be, in this case, 3. Good. So we have our 4 terms. You're always going to have one more term than you have exponents, right? Okay, so 3 factorial is what this means, over, and then on the bottom, we're going to put 0, oops, we don't need a parenthesis for the first one. We're just going to do 0 factorial, 3 minus 0 factorial. Okay, and I know you're probably thinking, what do all these exclamation marks mean? Why is my math yelling at me now? Don't worry, don't worry. It'll all be okay. I'll explain it so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. So basically, what this means is 3 times 2 times 1 all over 0 factorial. So that's just going to be 1. Anytime you see 0 with factorial, it's always going to equal 1. And then this one is going to be 3 minus 0, so it's just going to be 3 times 2 times 1. So that's basically what you have. Anytime you see anything times 1, it's just going to equal 1. So here we've got 3 times 2 over 3 times 2. Everything's going to cancel out, right? So you're left with 1. So we can erase the whole thing, and we can just put 1 in there. This is just times 1, right? Okay, now for the second one, we've got x to the third minus 0. In exponents, anytime something is subtracted by 0, it's just going to equal itself. So we're going to have x to the third, right? Okay, good. And now over here we've got 2 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is going to be 1, right? So we can take these ones out, and we're just left with x to the third. Good. Okay, now we're going to add that. Over here we've got 3 factorial over 1 factorial times 3 minus 1 factorial. So what's this going to equal? It's going to equal 3 times 2 times 1, right? And then we're going to see 1 times 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times 1. This cancels out. All the 1's cancel out, and we're just left with 3. So this whole term just equals 3. And we multiply it by x to the third minus 1. So it's going to be x squared, right? And then we have 2 to the first power, which is just going to equal 2. So we can actually multiply this 3 and the 2, and we get 6, right? So we can do 6x squared, and that's going to be our second term. 6x squared. Perfect. Now over here, we have 3 factorial over 2 factorial times 3 minus 2 factorial. Good. Now this is going to equal 3 times 2 times 1 all over 2 times 1 times 3 minus 2 is going to equal 1. Good. So all the 1's are going to cancel, the 2's are going to cancel, and you're left with 3. So this whole thing is just going to equal 3. Good. You're getting the hang of things. I love it. I hope you're writing this alongside as I'm going so that when you get to your test, you know exactly what to do. Okay, so x to the third power minus 2 is 1. So we can just do 3x. 2 to the second power is 4. And now we can multiply this by this. It's just going to be 12x, right? Good. Good job. Yay. Plus 3 factorial over 3 factorial times 3 minus 3 factorial. So this is just going to equal 0. And remember we said anytime you have 0 factorial, it's just going to equal 1. So then we have 3 factorial over 3 factorial, and that's going to equal 1 as well. So we don't even have to write anything. So now we have x to the third power minus 3. So x to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power always equals 1, right? So we don't even have to write it. 2 to the third power is going to be 2 times 2 times 2. So what's 2 times 2? 4, right? What's 4 times 2? Right, 8. And there you have it. That would be your answer. Beautiful. Good job. You made it. You made it through your first problem for binomial theorem. And definitely not your last. Good job.